What's going on, guys? Chuck here. Um, so this afternoon, I had the pleasure, me and the kids, of going to see Superman in the big IMAX theater, which is really cool. That's the first time I've actually been in a theater in quite some time. I can't even remember the last time I was in a theater because we have a season passes for the drive-in, so we tend to go there because movies free. And compared to the price in these theater, it's much better, along with concession prices too. But with Superman, I felt like I needed to see this on the biggest screen with the best sound possible. It just seemed right, and you just splurge for Superman. And nothing against the drive-in. The drive-in's great, but the little stereo sound, from FM, I just wanted a spectacle. I wanted it big. I love Superman. I wanted Superman. I wanted it big, and we saw it today, and I I absolutely loved it. Full disclosure, I loved it. Um, Chris, who was done, Chris was like, "That was a great movie." You know, Chris, Chris is very indifferent about a lot of stuff. I mean, I've always said he's also he's the easiest critic. He doesn't criticize too much. And basically, for Chris, is if it's entertaining, engaging, he's going to enjoy it. Which I love. He's not jaded. Like so many people are. He has no history with anything. He's not trying to come in here and compare it to anything. The closest he's done to that was like when we've seen like Mario Brothers or Minecraft or Five Nights at Freddy's, because obviously it's stuff he knows. But even then, he's still like, "This is fun. I enjoy it." He's the he's Hollywood's best critic because he loves everything. But that's not a bad thing. Like I said, he's not jaded. Kara loved Crypto. Plain and simple. I just liked the movie. She was really into it too, which is great because her attention span's even less. Chris is like 14, so he's better than what he was when he was like her age, which she just turned 10 on the July 3rd. But she really enjoyed it too. But she loved Crypto. So we have a dog, um, Daisy, which is a lot like Crypto, not like the same species, but very rambunctious. And me and Chris were like, just sometimes we're just like, what is this dog doing? It's basically my wife and Kara's dog, more or less, and my mother-in-law who stays with us too. But me and Chris are like, this dog has nothing but just this sweet dog, but she's chaos. She's uncontrolled chaos. And that's like what Crypto is in the movie. So Kara, all three of us could relate, and it was really cool. But Kara liked him a lot. Um, I Where do I go with this? I don't know, I love the bright colors. That sounds really really uh kind of cheap. I like the bright colors. It was pretty. But no, I it was good to see a nice bright palette for Superman again. I'm looking at this movie and I see a comic book. And I used to be a big comic book collector. Um Roughly from about like 92 up until sometime in the early to mid 2000s maybe. I know funny enough, it started with the Death of Superman storyline when that came out, because I was always a big Superman fan since I was a kid. Superman movie is one of my all-time favorites I've talked about before. But when Superman died, I really wanted to find out what was going on, so I got that issue and I got hooked into comics, and I went and bought all the back issues up to was it 1986 with the Man of Steel miniseries, and when they did a Superman reboot after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I read. I got all invested in the DC at that point going forward, and this is the first time that I really felt that universe uh, on screen. Obviously, previous Superman films have always been kind of, to use a word from Richard Donner, had verisimilitude, make it feel real. That's what was the key point of the original Superman. It was fantastical, but it felt real, which is what you had to do in '78. People weren't going to buy that fantastical world quite yet. Excuse me. Um, the same thing with why Batman in '89 was so. It was done, even though it was kind of slightly fantastic because it was dark, brooding world, but it felt real and grounded. Same why the Dark Knight trilogy works. It's grounded. The first X-Men series, you couldn't go too much. You try to go comic booky, but again, you still make it grounded, so it feels real. It took quite a while for comics, really to Marvel, the MCU, to allow comics to become, or comic book movies to become comic book movies, and really embrace that. Even Smallville, that was the whole thing with 10 years of that. No flights, no tights. Why it took Clark 10 years to become Superman. He was a red blue blur. And even then, he was barely Superman in the last 5 minutes of the movie, of the series. But again, because people won't, it's too much. Man of Steel, Man of Steel was following that trend, I guess, of being the realistic Superman and darker, because that's what everybody wanted. That's what the mood was. Excuse me. And I like Man of Steel, but that's not Superman. Superman is not Batman, and everybody wanted Batman. Batman is dark. He's brooding. He's got a grudge. He's got his vengeance. He has a dark past. That's not who Superman is. Superman is the polar opposite, if you will, of Batman. He's hope. He's about inspiring people, hoping, or wanting to bring out the best in others, believing in the good that humanity can be. He's bright. He's happy. He doesn't have the tragic backstory. I mean, yeah, sure, his planet blew up here, but he came here. He was raised with good Midwestern values. He's just a good guy. To quote, great podcaster Michael Bailey, the biggest Superman fan I know, Superman does the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And that's something that gets lost on a lot of people who don't understand the character. I just think he's an all-powerful God, and that's it. He should just be, forcing his power on everybody, and just, well, he can't. He's too powerful. He can't. Do anything. He's a boring character. Then you don't understand Superman. And I think that's what the Man of Steel Superman is kind of go with. But is it David Cornswet? I think that's pronouncing it right. I have a hard time with that. This Superman puts the man first, and I like that. I've always liked the portrayal. So when I read the comics of that, post-crisis era, it was about Clark Kent. Clark Kent was the real person. Superman was just the things he could do. Clark Kent was a man. He had feelings, he had emotions, his actions had consequences. He was dealing with, how to, his family, his love. Lois, he hurt like everyone else. He was a perfect example of the best of humanity. He wasn't Superman. Superman has the thing he does. It's the opposite to me when you look at Bruce Wayne and Batman. Batman is the real Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the mask. That's not who he is. Batman is who he is. Okay. In this case, Clark Kent is always Clark. He's the down home. He's the Kansas farm boy who just with good ideals, who has these powers and decides the best thing to do with them, because he can, is to help out those in need, help out the world. And why? And to quote the comic books, as one issue where Lois and Clark are having this talk up in the mountaintops of Nepal, I believe it was, about why are you Superman? Why do you have to do everything? Why are you Superman? What, again, why? And his simple answer was because nobody else can. And that's beautiful to me. And that's what I feel is touched upon in this film, is that, again, his mindset is he was put here to help everyone else, not, overpower, look over them as God. He was here just to help inspire and help out humanity because he can. And that's beautiful. And then somewhere along the way, being a good guy in this society has become a bad thing, and that's why Superman's been, I think a lot of people don't like Superman because he's too corny. He's he's not dark. He's not brutal. He's not breaking skulls or arms or whatever. He's just helping. He's doing what he can. He's a good guy. He smiles. He's, God forbid, somewhere along the line, he said being good became bad. I don't know why that is, but it is. It's a shame. But his portrayal, again, to me, is very relatable, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It's one of the best portrayals I've seen. Now, to be fair, I've not seen Superman. Most of her was really good too. That series, I didn't get a chance to watch it, for complicated reasons I won't get into. I do want to try and probably get that series and do watch it eventually. Because what I did see from him, like on the other Arrowverse shows, I really liked his portrayal of Superman live. I really think that was kind of that same thing, relatable, everyday guy who just happened to have these powers and be Superman. And that's why I'm getting this movie. I like the established universe. I like the Justice Gang. I like having, again, this everything felt like, I'm reading this stuff out of the comic pages, and that was great to me. People are going to complain that, well, the movie just starts off with Superman, right? We don't have his origin or nothing, which blows my mind because so many people have complained that we've seen the origin so many times. Why, same thing with Batman and Spider-Man. We don't need to see these origins again. We know it already. Everyone knows it. You've never seen it, you know the origins. It's not like Iron Man or Thor. Not everyone knows these guys, these origins. I mean, now they do, but at the time, they weren't familiar to anybody. But, we know what happens. And, we can just get in this universe, established universe with metahumans. And I'm okay with that. I think it's a great kicking off point to give you a good, prologue to build with at the beginning of the film, which I think is done very nicely. And you get right into the action. I have no problem with it. I like it a lot. I think it does a good way of set up this Superman and what he's about and who he is. I like it a lot. I love the chemistry with him and the actress who plays Lois Lane, which I don't have all the actor names, so I do apologize. I think she's one of the best and strongest Lois Lanes I've seen in a long time. And I like her, relationship with Clark/Superman. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was fantastic. He really felt like a good menacing Lex. Probably the best menacing Lex since Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville, who I love a lot. I don't think he gets enough. Well, he probably does, but sometimes I don't feel like he gets enough credit as really evil, manipulative Lex. But he had a good 7 years to do that. But Nicholas Hoult really knocks out of the park, I think, with the sinister and menacing. It's really good. Mr. Terrific is great. I like his portrayal. I'm not familiar with Mr. Terrific all that much. The most I ever saw him was like in the Arrow TV series. That character, I didn't, I think I stopped reading comics by the time he must have popped up because I don't recall seeing him, at least not this iteration of him that I can recall. Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, great. Guy Gardner has been was one of these characters that's so fun and offbeat. I always liked from reading the comics, and it's one of the things you never think you get to see, and this finally seeing him realized on screen is fantastic. I think it's great. People were complaining about Nathan Fillion's hairdo and all that. Obviously, these people who don't know Guy Gardner or know the character because he was spot on, in my opinion. I thought he was great. He was a great representation of Guy. And that's, again, I think this film, I know it's been very divisive for a lot of people. I think for even for Superman fans and comic book fans, I've noticed some are gonna like it, some are gonna hate it. It is what it is. Myself, I liked the feel of the comic. I liked the upbeat tone of it. I love just, again, it felt like I was reading a comic book come to life, and I love the characterizations. I thought they matched to what I know as Superman. Now, some will tell you that it didn't match theirs. It was too corny. It was too comic booky, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes too funny, which I heard people say that they feel it was too funny, and I don't think it was too funny. Because a lot of those reviews I'm expecting coming and thinking, oh my gosh, they're really ridiculously camp, and they made it sound like mostly like Batman 66 levels of camp, and it is not. They compare a lot to Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn's obviously those films, and I can see that. I really think there's more humor in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, but there's also a lot of heart in those films too, and I think it shows here. There's a lot of heart in this film. Some moments that the bookends of it to me are really what kind of do it. There's some sweet moments with the dog. I'm not even a big pet person, but I like Crypto. People hate on the Crypto thing. That's another hit and miss. People love Crypto because he's, people love dogs. People think it's stupid. And I will admit, a lot of this stuff is going to pull from the more the goofier Silver Age, I guess, of comic books. Some of the Superman lore. They're pulling, but I think they do it a very good job of it. Because Superman's history's got a lot of goofy stuff in it. There's no 9-nat. We're not going to sugarcoat that. There's a lot of goofiness in some of the Superman comic history, but it's fun. And I think James Gunn has done a good job of taking so many things and putting them in here and making them work, in my opinion. I like them. So, I don't know what I'm trying to say. And again, this movie does have some flaws. It's not perfect. There are some scenes that are kind of like, okay, that's a little weird, but it's fun. I can go with it because I can put on my suspenders of disbelief if you watch the Talkville podcast or listen to the Talkville podcast for a certain thing, because I'm having fun with it. It's just, Pocket Universe thing is the thing that was very big in the Superman comics. After the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which it's the whole thing I won't get into, but there was a Pocket Universe at one point. So I get that. That makes sense. The Martha and Jonathan depiction was probably a little divisive for some people. The characterizations, I thought, for the most part, were good. I like the loving parental dynamic they were. Now, there is a case you can make that they were probably a little too country bumpkin cliche, honestly, than you would have for Martha and Jonathan. I will give them that. They were probably a little too country, especially Ma. But she doesn't turn away from the fact she's still sweet, loving mother. And, same thing with Jonathan. I think there's a great scene with Jonathan Clark and, kind of having this crisis moment with a father and son, which I relate to in a lot of ways. Again, as a father, I relate because I've kind of had some of these speeches with my own son. So, it may not be everybody's cup of tea. Like I said, everyone's going to think differently, and that's okay. But I enjoyed it. Like I said, maybe the characterization could have been a little bit of not so, on the nose with the country bumpkin, but I can let that slide because they're still sweet. And again, the bookends of the movie help with that to me. The humor that was in it, I think, is good. Like I said earlier, I don't think it was too much. I think it was a good balance. If you hear a barking dog, there's that. Someone is ringing a doorbell upstairs, and she's going crazy. But I think the humor is a good balance. The action was fun. People complain about CGI, and I don't understand that it's bad. Now, I'm not the biggest, critic. I'll admit that, but I know what's pretty bad CGI. I like to think, it's pretty on the nose, like, oh my god, it's really bad. I thought it looked good. And I'm watching it on a big IMAX screen. Now, it's, if there's any flaws, I'm going to freaking see it. It's right there. I thought it looked good. I love all the, the action sequences. The kaiju thing, was good. All that stuff looked good to me. I don't see where people are, saying it was horrible. It was bad shots. I don't know. Maybe there was something real quick if you want to, if you're really nitpicking. Maybe I didn't see these things, but I'm also not going here trying to find fault with the film, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't want to get too much in this because it's already my third video trying to do this without rambling too much about everybody else. So I'm gonna try and keep this to, I did 2 previous attempts that turned into anger rambles, and I don't want to do that. But I will say one of the things that has bothered me about this film is there's been so much hate thrown at it before it even came out, which is just blowing my mind. People just wanting this movie to fail. I've never seen that. People want a movie to fail so badly. Whether it's real people or it's, bots, whatever. I don't know, but I don't get it. I really don't. And people bashing you because you like it and you know what you're talking about because it's Superman's weak. He's not, he's not Henry Cavill. It's all stupid. It's people trying to find a reason to hate just because. And if that's what you're doing, then just don't watch it. To quote Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret, like what you like, but don't be a dick. It's okay. If you don't like the movie, that's fine. You're entitled to that, but don't hate on everybody else because they do like it, or they don't like your version of Superman. Don't bash on them for it. And if it's not your thing, then just move on. Case in point, which I had kudos and a lot of respect to Christian Hannah Horror just recently put a video where he saw this movie and he came out, relatively unimpressed. But his own mission, he didn't get it. It's not his thing. He's like, I just wasn't for me. I'm not going to really review these kind of movies. I just don't do superhero films anymore. It isn't his thing. I totally get that. I totally respect that. I respect that so much that you're willing to come out and say, hey, I don't get it. It's not my thing. I'm just going to leave it alone. That's awesome. That's better than going here and just rage hating on it because it'll give you clicks or views. Chris loves watch a bunch of anime. I see them do all the time, and I'm watching like, what is this? A lot of people love anime. I don't get anime. I don't understand it. It's just weird to me. But people love it. But it's okay. Not my thing. I don't bother with it. I move on. That's all you gotta do. Honestly, it's just that easy, folks. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Move on. You don't have to, hate bash it or just go in or watch it, trying to find something to hate and just to relate it. Because I've seen a lot of that with this film and hoping for it to fail. And that's really been disheartening. I'm trying not to get into the ramble that I've gone the last 2 attempts of this video. So I'm going to cut it short. But just don't hate. Just like it, don't like it, move on. It's not the end of the world. It's just a movie, for crying out loud. Don't take it so seriously. It's not a political agenda. None of that's in this film. It's just a movie. Like anything else. It's a movie. It's not life or death. It's a movie. It's only a movie. But for me, it was a really fun movie. I loved it. Can't wait to see it again. Hopefully it'll be soon. I'm looking forward to. I know they've already talked about steelbook releases. I don't know if I want a steelbook release. I don't like steelbooks, but if that's all available, I will get it. But yeah, I had a good time with it. My kids had a good time with it. I am excited. This was, nice to see you have a fun, upbeat Superman film again, and I really liked, this Superman that we got. I look forward to seeing more of this Superman and more of this, new DCU. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to leave it there before I try to ramble on any more nonsense. This has already been too long. So that is it for this one. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought. And hopefully it's civil. Because I know, like I said, I know this movie's been really divisive. And that's okay. I'm not faulting anyone who's got critical or, legitimate critical reasoning for not liking the film. Not just because, oh, he has the trunks back on. This movie sucks. Those are legitimate arguments or not legitimate, but these are actual arguments people have had. Complaints why the movie's going to be bad because he has trunks on. Even though that's been the character since 1938, but whatever. You can't fix stupid. Anyway, or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.